Can you see the presentation? Okay. So I was going to do this with Anton. Unfortunately, Anton managed to contract COVID yesterday. So he's at home recovering from day 2 of COVID, and we wish him well. So I'm going to be covering his part of the presentation as well, which I'm a little fresh on, so please bear with me. What we're going to be talking about could be seen as an extension on Deborah Dahl's presentation. Is green industry even possible? We're going to be looking in here at maybe some more practical examples of how we can actually create a circular supply chain through the infrastructure that already exists in our networks. One of the things that Deborah said that really resonated with me and is a statistic that I didn't come across while we were building preparing for the presentation, is that there's about 100 billion tons of material entering our supply chain annually, and there's less than 9% of that volume is recycled product or reused product. That means more than 90 billion tons of material is extracted out of our ecosystem annually to feed us and clothe us and move our products for us. And that's something we need to change. And through this process, through the next couple of slides, we're going to be looking at ways of doing exactly that so that we can have a cleaner, better future for our future generations. So there is a few videos in the presentation, and I really hope they come across well. So please bear with me if it's not that great. But the first video is really setting the scene on how we managed to get so infatuated with plastic and the waste culture and the fast pace at which we want to consume goods. So let's have a look at what they have to say.
Modern plastic didn't really get its start until World War II, when the military realized how versatile it could be.
If you're old enough to remember the old-fashioned glass windscreens, this is what happened when you banged your nut.
Yeah, huge improvement there. But after the war ended, plastic companies needed to find new ways to sell their products.
Both sheets and powder are now being dramatically applied to peacetime living in hundreds of beautiful and useful ways.
And so, plastic went from protecting cargo to protecting our leftovers.
Food stored in baggies plastic bags always have the sound of freshness.
And nylon went from the skies to our thighs.
They stretch better to fit better.
And of course, who could forget?
My mama done told me, she told me, hun, we're having a party, a Tupperware party.
People went absolutely crazy for plastic.
In a new plastic decorator container.
Put them in a polyethylene plastic bag.
And to brighten up the plastic tree, plastic decorations.
Nowadays, everything can be made in plastic.
This was where our addiction began. For decades, Americans had a make it do or do without mentality. But our new throwaway culture fell in love with single-use plastics and didn't worry about the consequences.
Being disposable, there are no empties to collect. Vinyl and asbestos on the floor.
In fresh sun, sea, and sky colors.
Oh, the irony. During the 60s, global plastic production increased 400%, and by 1979, we were producing more plastic than steel. But people were starting to worry about plastic side effects.
Exposing animals to BPA resulted in serious ailments that signaled problems in humans.
We are suspicious of acrylonitrile because it's chemically related to vinyl chloride.
Utter nonsense.
Side note, they were talking about these bottles specifically, which were created by Coca-Cola and Monsanto in 1975. And surprise, acrylonitrile is toxic, and it was used in food and beverage containers for 3 decades. It was finally banned in 1977, and the bottles were taken off the shelves. And as the research was stacking up, so was the garbage. Due to a landfill shortage, a ship nicknamed the Garbage Barge made headlines in 1987 after it wandered the shorelines for months looking for a place to dump its trash. And it got people talking.
It may seem odd to you that for such a large country we're having trouble with our garbage, but we're drowning in this stuff.
So we added a fourth R to reduce, reuse, recycle. Refuse. With that, in 2007, San Francisco banned plastic bags.
They end up as a litter problem. The city has to spend tens of millions of dollars cleaning up that litter problem. They get in the ocean and they're ingested by marine mammals, turtles. They cause huge problems there.
The measure would require stores to offer only bags made of recyclable paper, reusable cloth, or new bio bags that can be turned into compost.
Powerful plastic lobbyists freaked out, worrying that the trend would catch on, and spent millions trying to overturn the statewide bill in 2015. They also successfully lobbied states to preemptively ban plastic bag bans under the guise of protecting the consumer in the grocery stores. And so the plastic bag remains, as does our plastic addiction. In 2014, 100 billion plastic bags were used in the US. That's almost one per person per day. We're still consuming plastics at a breakneck pace, even though we can literally see the toll it takes on our environment and wildlife. So far, some 700 species of marine animals have been reported to have eaten or been entangled in plastic. And scientists estimate that by 2050, virtually every seabird species on the planet will be eating it. Currently, only about 1/5 of all plastics get recycled. But it's going to take more than recycling to fix our plastic problem. We'll need to stop using so much of it in the first place. If we want to save our world and ourselves, we have to decide, planet or plastic.
There was a very interesting point in that video, and one I would like you to hold on in your minds while we go through the next couple of slides, is that I remember as a child having these glass milk bottles delivered at your door, and you have these little tokens that you put on the tray to let the milkman know tomorrow you want a bottle or no bottle or 3 bottles or whatever you want. And he would come in the evening early morning while we all slept, collect the bottles, put down what you needed, take it away, reuse it, bring it back. And there's a point in this video where the milkman is now delivering you a plastic bottle that never has to be collected. And that's something we must just hold in your thoughts while we move through the presentation. So in terms of the traditional linear supply chain, and you're probably tired of this, hearing this on day 3 still, we focused on making it, moving it, packing it, moving it, getting it to the shelves, and making sure the customer buys it as effectively as possible. And whether we are in the food industry or the fashion industry or the pharmaceutical or electronics or whatever industry or supply chain you're operating, through each one of these touch points and production points, waste is being generated. And what we need to do is really look at the way we handle that waste and what are the opportunities to either reuse that or recycle that or to extract the value out of that packaging, because we've paid for it. There is value on it. At the moment, we're just using it as throwaway money and building it into our margins. And this is what we want to be discussing today, is how can we close the loop to bring product back from the consumer up into our networks so that we are able to either reuse it or recycle it or repurpose it or do something else but sending to the landfill. And again, this is the easier part, looking at our own controlled network from farm to market. We're holding the product. It's relatively easy for us to recycle goods within that framework. But once it gets to the consumer, there's very few options available at the moment for the consumer to actually play a vital role in that supply chain of bringing value back from waste. So let's focus on our food supply chain. We do a lot of work with Food Forward, and Andy was kind enough to share this study with me that the WWE conducted in 2018 in South Africa. And we're talking about weight of product produced. In that study, they found that 1/3 of the food that we produce in South Africa is wasted, never gets to the market. And that is 4 times more than what is actually required to feed all our malnourished people in South Africa. And that's something we must take to heart and really focus on to try and alleviate. There's hungry people in South Africa on a daily basis, and there's food for them lying on the farms being wasted. In that study, they identified the sources or the contributors to that massive waste. 26% of the massive waste is sitting in agriculture, 24% is sitting in post-harvesting, 25% in processing and packaging. The bit that we'd like to control, the retail and distribution, 20%. And only 5% they found in terms of mass is being thrown away by the consumer. And the common theme throughout the study, although it's not identified in terms of the actual contribution in mass or percentage, is at each stage food is getting wasted because it doesn't meet specifications. And that's something that we as a consumer are driving, because we want the big red tomato, or we want the shiny apple, and if it doesn't meet that specification, it's discarded. We don't want to do something else with it. So are we as consumers creating this wasteful culture in our supply chain, our food supply chain? And is there not perhaps a market for the below spec items, and thereby reducing the demand from the farmer to create 30% extra volume on the farm that he can't sell because we want the specification? So if we can use that other third of products in the supply chain at a lower margin or a lower cost or whatever, our demand for agricultural process is reduced. Now, what can we do at the moment with this excess waste? And there's just 3 quick organizations that would love to get their hands on food that's still good for consumption but isn't going into the retail market. And like I said, we do a lot of work for Food Forward. In the last few months, we've put up and helped them create 3 new facilities within South Africa, and there's a 4th one in Cape Town being developed as we speak. So the demand for the need for this food is great, but they need help from us to get that food to them. It doesn't help that the farmer just leaves it on the field. I know that Food Forward's created an app where a farmer can say, I've got X tonnage available that I'm not selling, it's available for collection, but they need help getting it from the farm into their facilities. They're a non-profit organization. They haven't got access to funds. They're reliant on donations, and all our retailers are actively supporting them, but that's just that last 20% of the retail volume. There's so much more mass lying upstream that's not currently getting into that network that we need to look at. So what about the food that we can't consume, the food that's past sell-by date, that isn't fit for human consumption? What do we do with it? At the moment, you can dump it on the landfill, throw it in the garbage. Some gets into compost. Some gets given to animals to feed. But what else can we do with it? What other value can we create out of it? And here's just another quick video about an innovative way of dealing with that waste, and whether it's organic or plastic or anything, we can throw a lot of waste into this type of process. Have a look.
Paper, plastic, metal, glass. Even if you've been really good about separating out your recyclables, there's always something left over. What happens to that? It doesn't have to go to a landfill. Waste-to-energy plants are turning trash into power. Non-hazardous residential and commercial waste is delivered to a facility where it is combusted in a specialized chamber, creating steam that drives a turbine that makes electricity to power homes and businesses. State-of-the-art emissions control systems cool, collect, and clean combustion gases. All this is continuously monitored to comply with state and federal standards. At the end of the process, metals like steel and aluminum are recovered for recycling, and remaining residual materials are beneficially reused or disposed of in a landfill.
So this process can be used on a large scale for municipalities, but we've even seen this type of technology being applied in distribution centers, where the waste generated, the heat generated from burning the waste is used to heat up water for the crate washer. And if you think this is just a pie in the sky and it's only that happens overseas, New Horizons is a facility in Cape Town that's doing exactly that. They are looking for your organic or any type of waste so that they can, through their process, turn it into biogas, liquid carbon dioxide, recycled paper, plastic, and they generate fuel for electricity production and organic fertilizer. So it's in South Africa. We can support these organizations. There is an option to actually create value out of this waste. If we look at the packaging that we use in our supply chain, and again, this is focused on the food retail, just if you take the example of that Mentos gum, that product is put into a box, a nice looking box to entice the customer to buy it. That particular merchandising box is put into a smaller box that is reduces the quantity that we can ship to store, typically called a shipping case or a tray or a punnet or whatever. And that box is then put into a vendor case or a factory case that's easier to handle in bulk for the factory. And then all of that gets stacked on a pallet, and the pallet is wrapped in stretch wrap. Most of that packaging is all of that packaging, in fact, is only used once. Everything, once it's used, is thrown away or discarded. And that is something we must all focus on. And a common theme you'll find, and I'll repeat it a few times through the presentation. So 20 or more years ago, when I started working in the industry, DCs were looking at trying to reduce the cost of waste in the facility. So where they break open the vendor case to get access to the shipping case, that cardboard needs to be, and the plastic around the pallet needs to happen to it. So we were installing compactors to reduce the volume of waste so that the cost is reduced when we send it to landfill. And then the whole recycling industry started, and we started using balers to further condense that cardboard and that plastic into these square half-a-ton blocks of material, and we were then able to sell it and make money out of it. And most of the people we worked with have been able to turn their waste, cardboard waste, into cardboard profit and plastic profit. But now some of them have realized that, well, I have this process now already just dealing with my DC waste, but I'm sending so much cardboard and plastic to store and letting the store deal with it, and it's not economical to put this size scale machine at every store. So what has been happening more and more frequently is we are shipping that waste back into the DC. So once we have access to the merchandise unit, and even the merchandise unit itself eventually finds its way back into the DC, and we are able to add it to our plastic and cardboard and create greater amount of economy of scale to generate more value. And if you just look at the statistic on the side, an average retail store, and these are averages, I mean, statistic all the way, and depends on what packaging and what range you sell, there's about 70 tons of cardboard and 6 tons of plastic per store annually generated. Now, you can get anywhere from 1 to 2,000 Rand a ton for cardboard. Plastic sometimes goes for more. So you can calculate the value that you can get out of a store's waste. And if you start having 2, 3, 4, 500 stores and 600 stores that some of our customers have, that is some significant money. And the investment in equipment is normally paid off in less than 2 years. And from a clean profit from then on. And that's how we're starting to generate value out of waste. We're starting to change our perspective on waste and seeing the value that we've put into it, and we can extract that value out of it. But there's more that we can do. If we look at a normal composite DC, so it's a food retailer that has fresh product and it has ambient product, it has the need for a refrigeration plant to generate cold air to keep the product fresh. Part of that refrigeration plant, while it's producing a lot of cold air, it's also producing a lot of hot air as a byproduct that is, at the moment, in most instances, just released into the environment. We are right now busy with a development in Johannesburg where we're going to capture that waste heat and we're going to feed it into our crate washing system to bring the crate washing water up to temperature. Not all the way, but most of the way there. And we're then going to use boilers to just top it up to make sure we're at the ideal temperature so that we reduce the amount of chemicals we have to add to the water to clean our lugs and crates to the absolute bare minimum whilst maintaining all the hygiene standards that we need. But then again, that crate washer has a byproduct of water because it needs some clean water added all the time. And with a little bit of work, that byproduct, which already contains a lot of soap, can now be used to wash our trucks. So we're starting to build an environment where the byproduct from one is the input into another entity, and its byproduct becomes an input into another entity. So we're starting to close the loop within the facility's operations to make it as effective as possible. And you can throw solar panels on top of this, and et cetera, et cetera. And then here is an example where necessity has driven innovation. So in 2017, we were commissioning a facility in Cape Town that needed one of these 5,000-hour crate washer machines that consumes a lot of water. Additionally, every day or every shift, all the water in that crate washer is emptied, cleaned, and new water, potable water, is added to it. But 2017, if you all remember, was day zero for Cape Town. So that process is not going to work here. And through working with the OEM in the Netherlands, we added fine water filtration systems to every stage of the process. And by doing that, we were able to reuse water 20 times. So much so that we have now excess water available to us, because there's only one stage where we add clean water. And from there, it's filtered all along the process. And this is now the standard installation and recommendation for all our customers. We also added a centrifugal drying process, which is far more energy efficient than the normal heating system. And we are able to then also capture more water that's coming off the wash crates and feed it back into our system. So that's what we can do with our realm within the food industry, in the DCs at least, in terms of reducing our energy and waste and value out of waste. But if we look at our consumers' packaging, once the product is sold in the store and it's at the consumer's house, what are the options available? Well, is it getting recycled? Is it going to landfill? That depends. In where I live in the northern suburbs, the municipality is put in a system where the day after your rubbish collection, there's a recycling company coming to collect your recyclables. They give you a drum, a thing to put it in. And they'll collect it for you. And all you have to do is make sure it's on the curb the day after, in my instance on Tuesday, and they will collect it and they'll recycle it for you. And something that was really an eye-opener for me was how little landfill waste is left. Unfortunately, the bin they gave us to put the recycling material in is about half the size of our normal bin. That thing's always overflowing, and our normal bin has got nothing in it. So the amount of product that we as a daily basis handle that can be recycled is staggering. So what next? Well, we can do nothing as an organizations, as leaders, as businesses, and we can wait for governments to introduce legislation to enforce recycling, enforce reusing, like the European Union is doing, like the USA is doing in various entities. But it's more than likely that legislation will be enforced on us, the distributors and the producers of food, rather than the consumers. They will be encouraged but not forced. And is that even possible? Is it possible to legislate change in our environment? Well, South Africa has got the plastic bag initiative we all know about. Has that worked? I think we can debate that for infinitum, whether it was actually effective or not. I think what is more effective is retailers starting to say, we will not supply you with plastic bags. If you come and shop at us, you bring your own bag. There is no plastic bags available. That is driving change. I don't know how many of you, I certainly didn't know about this tire recycling initiative until I started doing some research. So it started in 2013. What's happened to it? I don't know. I think the best example we have of a proper functioning returns program is the liquor and beverage industry, which saw value in its product. That glass bottle has got value in it. It's far cheaper to clean it and reuse it than to buy another one. But what is lacking is the ability for our consumers to easily return it to the manufacturer so that they can reuse it. Not all stores take it back. It's difficult to manage, etc., because we don't want it in our supply chain, because we're focused on getting it to the store. We don't want to necessarily bring that kind of volume back into our DCs. But that thinking really needs to be challenged and changed. So here is something that they're doing in Western Australia to try and make it easier for the consumer to take his consumables and recycle it. I mean, our Northern Suburbs example isn't even available everywhere in the Cape Town metropole. I know Malmesbury is not doing it. I don't know if there's similar programs in Joburg. But here is something they're doing in Western Australia to to entice customers, but to also give some of the value to the customer so that it's a better incentive to actually bring their packaging back.
Getting your 10-cent refund at Tomra is quick and easy. Our family-friendly recycling centres are clean and air-conditioned, and our friendly crew are always available to help you. Most drink containers are eligible for a 10-cent refund, including plastics, cans, cartons and glass bottles. Each of our recycling centres has over 10 reverse vending machines, and each one takes up to 100 containers a minute. When you arrive, remember to check which machine you need, as some are for glass and some are for the rest. Recycling your containers is easy. Just insert a bottle or can to get started. If you have lids on your bottles, please remove them before you feed the containers into the machine. These lids will be recycled separately. There are 3 easy ways to claim your refund.
So, I don't know how many of you know about Coca-Cola, that there's a range of Coca-Cola products that's the bottle is actually labeled, that is returnable. It's a plastic bottle. It used to be 9 Rand. I think it's now 3 Rand that you get back for that container. But I just had a discussion with a colleague in the office where he was drinking some Coca-Cola, and I was asking, is this the returnable packaging or not? And it wasn't. And why? Because the one on the returnable packaging is more expensive. The other one, for non-returnable packaging, was on sale. So again, through the way we offer product to our consumers, we are hamstringing ourselves to collect and bring waste back into our supply chain. And another theme that I'm harping on, and I hope the message come across, is that one of probably the biggest contributors to waste is the single-use packaging or one-way packaging. It just runs a dead end right straight into the consumer's hands, and we leave it up to each individual to mark a plan with what they've got. But here is a video of someone who looked at the waste industry and really changed the perspective on it. And let's just have a look at what they're coming up with. And Deborah also referred to these people, but this is a bit more information on them.
Everything you see will one day belong to the garbage industry. Everything. And 99% of it within a year. And not only will it be property of the garbage industry, you will have paid them to take it. And for how immense that is, that it will be the owner of everything without a single exception, it's really uninspired what happens with it. Most of it ends up in a pile or gets burned. 2% gets recycled. That is really uninspiring. So you have this immense thing with no innovation, which is a blue sky opportunity to innovate like crazy and rethink everything. So TerraCycle began 16 years ago as a company dedicated to eliminating the idea of waste. And the way we do that is to recycle what's not recyclable, from dirty diapers to cigarette butts, flexible food packaging to toothbrushes, and then to integrate recycled material back into objects. So TerraCycle has been very dedicated to this idea of making disposability more circular. We're not challenging disposability, but we're making things that are disposable more recyclable and more recycled. And this led to Loop, because our mission is to eliminate the idea of waste. And we realized that recycling is solving the symptom of waste, but not the root cause of waste. And so the question became, what is the root cause of waste? And where we landed was using something once. We vilify plastic today, but I don't think plastic is necessarily evil. I don't think metal is evil. I think using them once is the wrong.
Plastic is an amazing material. It has a lot of great properties, but the fact that it's such a cheap material, especially in its single-use format, has really led to the garbage crisis. That's, the number one primary thing found in landfill. It's mucking up our waterways and all of our systems. It's become like a thing that's crippling our world in a lot of ways.
How do we solve for the negatives of disposability while maintaining the positives? The breakthrough for Loop was one simple question. Do you really want to own disposable packaging when it's empty?
So Loop is a really cool interactive platform where customers can sign up. They get products in reusable, durable containers. They can either sign up for each product as a subscription or a one-time only purchase. then you get your durable reusable shipping tote sent to you with all your products inside. Once their containers are empty, they go back in the durable reusable shipping tote. It comes back to us. We send it off to a cleaning facility to have it sanitized. Then those empty containers go back to the brand partners to be refilled with new products. Then it completes the loop or the cycle.
In Loop, instead of the consumer owning the package, the consumer borrows the package, and the package is always property of the manufacturer. And magic happens when that happens, because then the package becomes an asset to the Unilever, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nestle's of the world. And then they're financially motivated, forget sustainability, financially motivated to make them long-lasting and durable. And durable makes your packaging reusable, but also beautifully designed with really luxury materials, and even potentially brings new features to the package, like keeping things fresh longer, cooled longer, warm longer, all these things you couldn't do in disposable. It allows these brands to innovate in ways they could never innovate before. And that has unlocked this entire new ecosystem with almost every major consumer product company now partnered with Loop, creating durable alternatives to their currently disposable offerings. The beauty is, I don't have to have you believe in my products. It's already the world's best products. I don't have to ask you to shop at a new store. It's already likely the stores you're shopping at. All I'm really asking you is, would you like that in disposable or durable?
I really hope that concept has resonated with the audience today. And by luck or by chance or by design, that is something that the beer industry is forced to do, because you cannot sell beer in a plastic bottle. Consumer doesn't want it. UV rays destroys the product. It has to be in glass. And because it's in glass, it has value and it's beautiful and it's long lasting and it's fully recyclable. So therefore, they are financially motivated to get that product back. And it's the old adage of that milk bottle being delivered to your house. That milk bottle never belongs to you. If you damage it or break it, you have to pay for it. They will drop it with you and collect it and reuse it again. And we in the supply chain industry, we in the distribution industry, we have the real financial and process and infrastructure capability to make this change. Someone Unilever, who produces the product, the last time they touch it, they're so far removed from the consumer that it's hard for them to drive this level of innovation. But we in the middle, who's linking that production to that customer, we have to start linking that customer back to that production to bring this value back into our supply chain. So besides reusing containers, there are obviously other options available. And here's some industries in South Africa producing biodegradable options. And specifically, a lot of them are producing biodegradable options for the takeaway industry, which is a huge polluter in our environment. If you just think of coffee cups, and I was shocked that I didn't think of this before. A couple of weeks ago when I had a meeting with a client, because of social distancing, this meeting eventually happened in Tiger Valley next to the VDE Cafe, and we wanted to get coffee. He brought his own coffee mug, a simple little thing that he thought of. Why do I have to always have that coffee cup and I throw the plastic and the foam cup, I have to throw that away? He's carrying around his own coffee cup. It's a bit of a schlep, because once he uses it, he has to put it in a plastic bag, because that last little coffee could fall out in his laptop bag and stain it and make it smelly and all of that. But once that resonates with you, just bring your own little cup along. They're happy to give you coffee in your own cup. Use it, put it in a plastic bag, go home, wash it and bring it back. A couple of years ago, we started on the straw. Everybody was vilifying straws, and now we've all got paper straws or steel straws or glass straws or whatever straws. We need to take that focus further into our takeaway industry. There's so much that we can do. And then, of course, you can also go nude. You can, there's a shop, again, in Cape Town. I'm struggling to find references for this type of thing in Joburg, so you guys must catch up, where you can, nothing is sold in containers. You have to bring your own containers. Everything is sold in bulk. Your container, you put whatever product you want to buy in there, they weigh it, you buy it, you take it home, you wash your own container, you come back. Now, this is not a single solution is fit to do everything, but a combination. Once we start combining and really paying attention to all these various options, we can move a hell of a lot closer to the zero to landfill objective that we have to start setting ourselves. I remember years ago, Fruit and Veg City, there used to be these tanks of milk and juice, and you bring your own container, you fill it up, you pay for the 2 liters or 1 liter that you took, and tomorrow you can come back and do the same. That's disappeared, and I'm wondering why. Why not do that again? Why not bring back that culture to just come fill up and pay for the product and not the product and the packaging, and then throw the packaging away? So that's a long speech and discussion on the food industry. Let's just have a quick discussion on the fashion supply chain. And here is an industry that is really ripe for recycling and extracting value out of product that's currently ending up as waste or trash. So the very traditional fashion supply chain is something's made, we order the material, we sit down, we design the garment, we fast track it, and we ship it from all over the world into our facilities where it's as quickly as fast as possible. We process it and we split it up and we rush that product to the store. Everything is pushed to the store. We get as big as offering on the store, and we hope to hell the customer gets into that store and likes our style and buys our product. And that supply chain in some instances can be as long as 12 to 18 months from selecting the garment, establishing the style, setting up the designs, having a sample made, shipping it here, checking it, changing it, going back, There's so much going on in that supply chain. But once we've pushed all that volume to store and it doesn't sell, it ends up on sale. Or, maybe worse, ends up in the landfill. So here's another organization who's looked at this whole process and thought, hang on, that's not clever. Let's do things a little differently. Yes, at a bit of an extra cost, but if you look at the overall cost in terms of waste, product, and the whole supply chain, this might actually be a better idea. And let's hope our clothing retailers are catching up on this trend and having a look and see what they can do for us here.
Welcome to T-Mill. I'm Martin.
Nice to meet you. T-Mill is an online platform built by the clothing company Rapa Nui. It allows brands to print and create their own sustainable garments. All of its products are made from organic cotton, and central to its business model is combating the inefficiency built into the fashion industry.
So one of the big problems with fashion, as well as the material wastage, is actually is overproduction to start with. You only actually make what people need when they need it, which means making products in the seconds after they're ordered.
In 2018, T-Mill shipped 1 million shirts. The company estimates that using sustainable materials adds about 25% to costs, but says it offsets that by maximizing efficiencies in other places.
It costs more money. So what we need to do is find savings.
T-Mill minimizes waste and streamlines production using its own creative engineering.
The whole factory is powered by renewable energy. Everything that we make is designed from the start to come back to us when it's worn out.
So every T-Mill t-shirt has this barcode on the care label, which when you're done with your t-shirt, you can scan it and it'll generate a postage label and allows you to send the shirt back for free. And then T-Mill will give customers a discount on their next order in order to incentivize people to recycle instead of throw their clothes in the trash.
And there was an important point at the start of the video or the middle of the video that we are overproducing our fashion and clothing range to try and rectify or absorb some of the errors we make in allocating stock so long in advance to stores. I mean, we're busy with various projects to try and look at how can we from DC to store bring that supply chain, shorten that supply chain. Currently, we're looking at companies that's taking 15, maybe 20 days to move a product from the DC all the way to a store. And by then, the whole network or the customer demand, everything could have changed. So what do? They just send a lot of volume there and hope that the store can handle it and the store actually sells it. So if we can shorten that process, we can be faster in response and take some learnings from our food guys where if it's sold today, it's there tomorrow. And we've got examples in industry internationally where if it's sold 6 o'clock in the morning, it's there by 1 o'clock in the afternoon again. So really looking at only having in store what is minimally there required as an offering, and when I sell one, I replace one as quickly as possible where it's actually sold. So we're not moving product to the wrong ends. Whether or not this produce on demand will catch on or become mainstream, that's hard to say. It's certainly enticing, but in the meantime, what can we do? So more and more we're getting customers asking us to look at alternatives to this push model. They say, instead of taking everything that I've bought and just throwing it out to my store and hope to hell that it sells, let's see if I can hold back more and more and more and going for that minimal merchandise display offering, but then I have to get there as quickly as possible, because if a customer gets there and the large just sold and there isn't a large available, he might leave. So it's looking more towards holding back and letting the store demand pull the volume to the stores. And then there's some very clever things that's starting to happen where we're integrating, we're empowering the sales floor clerk to help our customers, where if for by chance that large pants, black pants, or in my instance, double X large black pants, when I get to my favorite store where I buy these products, isn't on the shelf, they can say, hang on, here's an e-commerce offering. I will order it for you, and you can either collect it in store or it will be delivered to your home. But because I'm holding back stock, I have that stock available to now move in different directions. So there's also the end of season or end of range retail chains that's available in the UK and the US. And there's examples of that in South Africa. We have Jumbo Clothing that does a fair amount of that, and there's a few others available. That's also options that we could offload that end of range volumes. And then this is also a particular industry that likes to reuse old boxes. So that's at least something that's happening to the vendor cases. It's going back. We have customers who's buying boxes from food retailers to move into their supply chain, and they're trying to bring as much back, but for the most part, it still feeds in, so it's getting used at least twice, but it still ends up on landfill. So returnable packaging could play a role in it. It might not be the answer for everything, but it very likely could reduce a lot of what's ending up in landfill, and the combination of the two is certainly something we're looking at in a few of our customers. For those of you who's interested in the fashion industry and the fast fashion, and particularly want to maybe learn a bit more about what fast fashion is doing to our industry, and please don't think that I'm knocking fashion. I like wearing clothes. I'm certainly not someone who's advocating to run around in a loincloth for the rest of my life. But this particular documentary was done a number of years ago about the true cost of fast fashion and who pays for fast fashion and what it's doing to our environment. And there's a lot of learnings that we can take from it. So it was on Netflix. It should still be there. If for those of you who have a subscription, try and find it. But here's another example of what we could do with clothing that's not suitable for use anymore. So it's gone on sale. It didn't sell. We've donated to the Salvation Army or whoever. They don't want it. What do we, before we throw it in the landfill, let's try and see if we can rather capture some of the remaining value. And here's a little town in the middle of Italy who's managed to do just that. And again, through necessity. The town was very poor. They don't mention why. They couldn't really afford new clothing. So they came up with this process.
Most of our clothes will never get recycled. 99% will end up here, dumped and burned in landfill.
Our Earth at this point is not capable of absorbing the huge amount of clothing that's produced each year.
But what if all those wasted clothes could be saved and turned into something else? I've come to a town in Italy called Prato. This place has mastered a method to transform old scraps into new clothes.
Questo ci fa essere fieri.
What happens here is unique. There are hundreds of companies in this small district, and each specializes in one specific aspect of the process, whether it's spinning, weaving, or designing. And today, incredibly, this town says it processes 15% of all recycled clothes in the world.
So this is your shirt. If it's too old for the charity shop, it gets sent for recycling.
Here, it's sorted by color, torn apart, washed, and then the new recycled material is taken and transformed to make new clothes with minimal waste.
That was very quick. Let's go through the process again. You donate clothes. They arrive here from lots of different countries. All the garments that can't be sold second-hand are taken to this company nearby. Here, not only are they separated by color, but also by material.
I think these used to be trousers.
So there's another few examples I found of companies actually recycling material, and it doesn't necessarily have to be single composite materials. There's processes out there that can separate multi-composite material clothing into its elements again and there for reuse. So again, once you've looked and maybe taken to heart the message of the true cost of fashion that I spoke about the video earlier, it's not just buying the shirt for $100 in Vietnam and getting it to my stores and selling it for 200 Rand or whatever the price is. I can actually, once that product, the consumer is done with it, there's value there for me to retain. And maybe we can have our clothing partners look at saying to the customers, when you come and shop, bring some old clothing that you can't use anymore and let me remake clothes for you. Whatever variant of that we can actually make work in South Africa, but we need to do something. So, there's some options. We can donate clothing. Clothes can be recycled. It can be recycled. The one statistic that I did here is only about 1% of clothing ever made gets recycled. 99% of whatever we make, we wear, we buy, is ending up in landfill. We cannot continue to do that. Now, again, if you think I'm vilifying the fashion industry, I'm not. Here's Adidas. Adidas came up with this, and you may know about it, you may not, but they've come up with a very cool concept, and they are evolving this concept continuously of how to use particularly plastic differently.
Organization Parlay for the Oceans. Their goal? To turn marine pollution into sportswear. And they've made huge progress. In 2019, Adidas expects to make 11 million pairs of shoes with recycled ocean plastic. That's more than double what it made in 2018. Adidas says the partnership has prevented 2,810 tons of plastic from reaching the oceans. But how are these shoes made? It all starts at the beach. Parlay and its partners collect trash from coastal areas like the Maldives. The waste is then sorted, and the recovered plastic is sent to an Adidas processing plant. Adidas uses plastic bottles that contain polyethylene terephthalate, or PET. And if it's something Adidas can't use, like caps and rings, those get sent to normal recycling facilities. The processing plant crushes, washes, and dehydrates the waste, leaving nothing but small plastic flakes. The flakes are heated, dried, and cooled, then cut into small resin pellets. Normally, polyester is made from petroleum, but Adidas melts these pellets to create a filament, which is spun into what they call ocean plastic, a form of polyester yarn. Adidas uses ocean plastic to form the upper parts of shoes and clothing like jerseys. Each item in the Parlay collection is made from at least 7...
So I've got my 10-minute warning, so I don't want to miss out on the rest. So I've cut the video short, but something that rings true to me there is, why does that bottle have to land up in the ocean, then get probably consumed by some, or in some form or way by some of the marine animals, and some of it making it to the beach before it goes to Adidas to make clothing? Why can't we somehow create a process to take that bottle out of the consumer's hands and do the same thing to make clothing here? We all in DCs wear these high-vis jackets. Those materials are perfect for making high-vis jackets, clothing in production environments, etc., etc. But the bit of the video I did skip is that washing this product does create microfibers, which is a bit of an issue. So Adidas is currently working on a shoe that is made to be recycled. And that's the part that our production team can play. Make it so that I can give it back to you so you can make it for me again. So we're starting to reuse a lot of the material that's above ground. We're not consuming 90 billion tons of product out of our Earth's every year. That's ridiculous. So talking about e-commerce, we all know e-commerce is the fastest growing industry or business worldwide. I mean, these are some statistics. There's probably millions more out there. we know that it's ramping up dramatically and it's gaining a lot of momentum. COVID's doing that, but COVID was the instigator. Now the consumer is getting, hang on, well, I'm one of them. When I run short of a couple of beers, it's so much easier just to ask 60/60 to deliver it. They can do it far faster than I can go to the store, collect it, and come back. And for the 35 or 45 rand that it cost me, it's worth it. So e-commerce is definitely here to stay, but it is, however, adding to the problem. Because what are we doing in the e-commerce industry? I sell something that's in a box. I take that product, I put it into another box, which is a bit larger, no markings on it to hide whatever I'm moving. But then I add void filling to that box to make sure it's nice and snug, close the box, put all papers in there. And then sometimes I go put that box in a bag. And I send all of this to the consumer, adding to the problem, what's the consumer going to do with all this product? I shop a lot online, same as everybody else. And I'm starting to pile up boxes. Luckily, we have the recycling initiative, so I can put the boxes in there, and it does get recycled in the end. But is that truly the right way to go? A big part of the e-commerce industry is returns. So I've seen statistics that there's a product bought online is 3 times more likely to be returned than something that's bought in a bricks and mortar store. And there's various reasons for that. And I'm just highlighting on clothing. Clothing is a big return item in our industry. So what's driving this? It's the returns policy. We're making it easy. I'll deliver it at your door. You don't want it, sure, I'll collect it from your door and I'll take it back again. So it's very convenient, and it's free shipping and it's free returns and all of that. But especially in clothing and shoes, size accuracy. I've bought from various vendors. It's not someone in particular, the same style, the same product, the same size, but just different colors. I like a gray and I like a black or whatever. So I'll take both. I want both. But only one of them fits because the other one was just too snug or too wide or too long or too short. We need to be making clothes accurately so that if a size 11 Caterpillar is a size 11 Adidas is the same physical foot shoe. And I'm sure that's possible if we pay enough attention to it. So that when you shop, you don't have to go by the size you think you are, the size you want to be, and the size you actually are. And one of them you'll leave and the other 2 you'll return. There's also this perception, especially in fashion, that the product I got isn't what I ordered because the image quality was a bit fuzzy or the color rendition wasn't great. So there's a lot that we can do around that, and there's a few stores that's starting to bring this technology into the stores. We recently did a project for We Are Egg, the first one in Cavendish, very exciting initiative there, where they're trying to create this digital omni-channel store where you can go in and you can actually try on clothing, you can see what the color looks like, you can change. I've seen videos where restrooms in the East are being set up so that you can play with your makeup and you can order product online to make things, to make sure you can try things out and it looks more realistic, to try and reduce this volume of returns so that people aren't buying a range to see which one they like and they just send the rest back. And there's also a remorse buying initiative. So the longer I wait for something, the more likely I am to return it. And that's an exponential curve and something we need to watch. And need to drive for in the way we set up these channels. And there's lots of other reasons that we can think of, I'm sure. So what are the opportunities to reduce waste in the e-commerce supply chain? Returns, get rid of returns or reduce returns, manage returns, focus on the issues around returns. Why are we returning stock? Use only as much packaging as we need. And an easy way to do that is instead of a home delivery, deliver it to make it a store collect. You have an opportunity for that customer to maybe pick up something else in store. And you don't have to add so much packaging to it. The truck's in any case going to the store, and there should be a store close by. It's not as convenient, but can we incentivize customers to rather go to store, to rather reduce the packaging? And if we have to use packaging, let's try and use biodegradable packaging so it doesn't just sit and end up, especially that plastic bag. And just a side note to say, if you are focusing on the e-commerce industry, and we all are focusing on the e-commerce industry, no matter what you move or what you sell, make sure you're ready for the volume of returns and what you need to do to return that product, all the inspections, everything, and set up your systems around that. So to end off what can we do in our supply chain? What are we able to achieve in our supply chain? Well, we have DCs that's driving to stores. We have waste centers that's dealing with our DC waste, dealing with our store waste. But what if we add a reclamation center, something that to reclaim the value out of our waste to our DCs? And we use incentives to let our customers also bring plastic and cardboard to our stores, add that to our store volume and bring that back. But we're also starting to bring back consumable product that's either hit its sell-by date and still fine for use for someone. We bring that to our reclamation centers. Product that's past it cannot be used, let's bring organic waste back, let's bring back one-way packaging to our reclamation centers, and we use them to start separating waste into recyclables, to food sharing, to animal feed schemes, make some energy out of it. We can send some to compost, we can send some to landfill, and there's a myriad of things that we can do once we have control of that waste at a central point. Again, our mantra, economy of scale builds efficiency. So the more we have, the more we can do with it. And there's other opportunities that we can create in this. Unrecyclable plastics, there's people in I think it's PE or East London, that want these products. They add it to their concrete product, add some volume to it. It never goes away. It makes the concrete a little lighter, a little more insulated. Send it to them. Get the product to them. Let's reuse that product for something else. We then use less resources to make these concrete blocks. Once we have this type of systems, something as simple as that metal clip in your strapping can get recycled. We can get it out of the strapping. If the store sends the strapping back, we can put it back into our logistics network and we can use it again. That thing doesn't get damaged when it gets used the first time or the second time. It's value there. Hangers for clothing. Let's get them back to our centers. Let's sort them. Let's put them back on clothing. Let's not waste that opportunity. So I have a few minutes left. I might cut this video short. This is just to show you what really is possible. And this is Sweden's effort, and it's years already in the making. They've achieved it many years ago. Let's see what can be done.
2 billion tons of trash are dumped into landfills every year around the globe. That's so much trash that if you lined it up in garbage trucks, it could circle the earth 24 times. Wow. But Sweden has found a way to make their trash work for them by using it to fuel a waste-to-energy program that converts garbage into sustainable energy. Sweden has even gotten so efficient at this process that they've run out of their own trash and now import garbage from other places. Believe it or not, only 1% of Swedish garbage actually ends up in a landfill. So where does it all go?
So sorry, and for the sake of time, I'm cutting the video short. So that must resonate, that once it's done properly, once you've put focus on it, and if you're ever lucky enough to visit Sweden, it's something to behold, especially if my very first trip, I landed in Heathrow and then flew from Heathrow into Sweden, and the contrast was staggering how clean Sweden is, that you can actually achieve a 1% landfill. It's possible. And this is a quote from Ban Ki-moon, and you can all read it. But it's something that must resonate with all of us. We have the power to change, and we have the time to change is now. There is no tomorrow for our children if we do not change. And another quote, the slides will be available. You can go through it. So just a final word again, zero to landfill is ambitious, but it is possible. And we must stop looking at our financial economic payback as 3 and 5 years. We must take a 20 and 50-year view. Otherwise, our kids are going to be the ones who's going to blame us for the environment that they have left. So that's my story. I think I'm about there. I don't know. Okay. So that gets to my example of my colleague who went and bought the Coke bottle on sale, but not the returnable packaging bottle. Buy the product that's returnable. Us as consumers have that power. If we focus on buying stuff that is marked recyclable, that can be reused, that can be returned, the retailers will only supply that. That's what they're looking for. They follow demand. We are the demand. We are the drivers for this change. Thank you very much. Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. Good. Thank you very much. Have a fun day.